Yeah. We've heard it. The riches are in the niches. We've all heard that advice, right? Especially the last few years. Niche down, niche down. And it's so simple. It must be right, right? Here's the truth, niching isn't always the golden ticket it's made out to be. So let's explore why niching might actually suck and when it works and how to find the balance between focusing on a niche and then growing a firm. If you're in the bucket of trying to grow a practice beyond a solopreneur business, niching may not be the right thing for you. Now, listen, I get it. I'm a little tongue-in-cheek on the whole niching sucks thing, but that's the advice that we predominantly hear across the board when it comes to bringing clarity and focus to your firm, but it also comes with a higher degree of challenges. We've got smaller markets, we've got limited scalability, and then risk of following trends a little bit too closely. So let's think about how and why it actually makes sense to niche if it's the right thing for you. So why would niching be overrated? Riches that are in the niches. It's really coming from a long legacy of companies who have seen a ton of success in just serving a really small market, or what maybe they perceived as small at the beginning that ended up getting really big for them. If you think about something like Mr. Beast on YouTube, Mr. Beast really started by focusing on gaming, the gaming audience, and creating videos that connected with gamers. And now this guy's on Netflix, he's on Prime, he's all over YouTube, the top content creator in the world right now. But he started really, really small. Now, had he stayed pretty small, he wouldn't be anywhere close to how big he is today. And so I think by far and large, a lot of people are kind of oversimplifying, let's focus on a niche, but that kind of also ensures that you're staying small. Now, niching does help you simplify your messaging, but only if the audience is sizable enough to actually care. And yes, it's a big world. There's a lot of folks, even in a really small niche like basket weaving. There's probably enough basket weavers in the world that would care enough about the type of content and messaging that you would be putting out there. There's a notion that there may be less competition, that the niche that you choose is less crowded, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee easier marketing. You still have to follow through with marketing to that niche to create success, to grow a practice in that niche. When you think about a go-to-market rhythm for a niched practice, you really have to run the gamut of creating enough SEO, creating enough helpful content, creating enough relationships in the space to make it worth it. And hopefully it's coming from a space that you're already related to and know really well, so you've got to start down that path. But you can't just go from broad general firm to a niche firm overnight. Generally, you're looking at about a year-long transition to really focus on a niche. Now, you can actually go wrong if you choose to niche as well by overly narrowing your audience and or catching a niche that's a little bit too trendy that may fade away. I think there's a lot of folks early on in the crypto days that said, we're going to focus on a firm specifically to crypto. And they saw these massive swings up and down in crypto that may have led them to potentially actually pull back from the niche that they had decided to focus on. Now, I think today you see a lot of adoption, you see a lot of growth, you've seen Bitcoin over the years and just broader ancillary markets pop up because of crypto, but it's taken a long time. But for those that focused on it back in, 2014, 15, 16, it was a tough go. And so you got to be really careful about what you're niching into to identify whether or not it's deep enough for you to actually see success in. Now, the smaller market size of niching too deep can really limit your scalability, limit that ability to focus on a little bit bigger market. You really just take that journey of millions of prospects to about hundreds of prospects, or maybe thousands, but you really have to go through an exercise of how big is this target market? If I were to capture X% of the market in my local geography, what would that mean for my business? If I were to capture X percentage in my region, what would that look like in the nation, in the world? So then you can start to understand how small and or how big is this niche that I'm trying to get into. If you say, hey, I niche in e-commerce companies, that is far big enough for you to fill up your pipeline and to condense your marketing messaging in a way that relates to a market without limiting potential because it's a huge market. So niching really works if you want to build a really manageable, profitable small business, a lifestyle that you want to keep at 10, 15, 20 people, or even look at the Brandon Halls of the world. I think a lot of folks have held him in super high regard for good reason for what he's done in the real estate space. But even if you ask him, he hasn't gotten to that point just based on real estate clients. There's a lot of ancillary businesses who he's performing services for that actually expand the capabilities and the service and the industries quite significantly. So, if you want to have this manageable, profitable small business run $1 million, $2 million firm, niching can work really, really well, particularly if it's an underserved market. There's a pressing pain point that nobody else is solving. What I prefer to see is adding a niche offering that complements broader services that you can really lean into. So you can serve a broader population of clients, but then add something niche on top of that. I think it's a really cool way to niche in a way that's not necessarily limiting that total market potential if you're looking to like truly scale a firm to 10, 50, 100, 200, 500 people and potentially take on additional outside capital. Now, what you're seeing in the private equity realms that are acquiring firms is that they actually really like niche firms. They like the profitability, the scalability, the ease of management of delivering services to a specific category of clients. However, what they're doing is that they're actually consolidating multiple niched firms into one larger firm that ultimately serves kind of everybody. So they're taking this niche approach, consolidating them, and then doing kind of what every other firm is doing. They just have specific client segments or verticals within their firm that are specific to the industry. So if you're a small firm operator right now, potentially looking to exit, niching could be a great path for that. However, if you're looking to build that larger firm, you're looking at what these larger firms are doing. Very few of them actually serve one specific industry, and they're actually growing by acquiring specific firms that are niched in a category. If you want to look at like kind of broadening your horizons, I'd like to look at venture capital. I like to look at private equity to see like what are they investing in? How do they invest? They're aiming for big markets. They're aiming for unicorn status companies in a lot of ways, particularly in VC. And you really have to have a resilience against trends in this. You have to have a really good infrastructure to weather the storms that come whenever you're focused on any particular kind of industry. But they're investing in companies that have a really big market potential. And so if you're entering into a realm of trying to scale a firm, serving diverse industries and audiences can really provide a lot of room for growth, given that you're an expert in the areas that you're servicing. The way that I like to think about this is that you could still have a small firm with key individuals within your firm focused on specific verticals or industries. So you can kind of have sub niches within a more general approached firm. You really just have to find the right balance. We're starting broad and then refining. You're building a wide audience and then identifying patterns and opportunities to focus that time. You really want to test niches before committing because you may or may not know the nuances that come with niching in that category. So test them out. Try to understand like what are the core services that are being offered here that enable scalability in my firm. We're really trying to focus more on the problems and not the demographics. So we're focusing on providing specific solutions to challenges rather than targeting a very narrow group. If you can say, I solve this problem, and then back up to say, who do I solve that problem for? And that becomes the niche. I think that's a pretty cool way to do it. So a framework for evaluating niches, define your audience, calculate the market size, project some degree of scalability and or churn within that, and then identify what is the specific problem that you're facing for that audience. It may be the right thing for you. I personally don't like niching or the concept of niching just because I get bored. I like variety. I like different business models. I like hearing from different business leaders, but ultimately that's not nearly as scalable as somebody who's focused specifically in basket weaving. That said, I really do like the approach of niching within a practice, within a firm. So you say, we've got our basket weaving group, we've got our taxidermy group, we've got our widget group. And these different groups serve clients solely for the sake of creating clarity and consistency within that service line or within that niche. I like the idea of having that segmented within a firm rather than saying, I'm only doing this. Because ultimately, like I want to be in the mindset of building something that's scalable, that's broad, that enables flexibility for the team and for the firm over time. I get it. There's a lot higher margin potential earlier on for heavily niched firms, but you really have to test it and see if it's right for you. It's a powerful strategy. The market's got to be right, the audience has got to be big enough, and the timing has to be sustainable. But before diving in, ask yourself, like, is this the right long-term play for me? Or am I cutting myself off from some bigger opportunities that may exist later on? I hope that's a helpful way to think about niching It's a little bit different than what you may hear traditionally in social media, but I hope that's helpful as you consider whether or not niching is right for you. Till next time.